Towers have been a part of every Age of Empires game, sometimes crucial, sometimes completely ignored. From their fragile beginnings in Age of Empires 1 to the more refined roles they play in Age 4, their purpose has shifted with each iteration. This will be part retrospective and part guide for all AoE players. So grab your nails and hammers as we'll take a closer look at how towers have evolved across the series, when they mattered, when they didn't, and why sometimes the strongest defense is knowing when not to build one. Before we continue, I'd like to give you folks a quick update. As you may have noticed, there's now a new logo for Age of Noob. Alongside Game Noob, we now have his long-lost medieval cousin. The difference should be clear to subscribers of both. The green background and spear nod to the classic spearman. Also, I just uploaded a retrospective on FIFA 2000 over at Game Noob, so check it out if that's your thing. It's linked below. Second, since I will be uploading here again, I have reintroduced memberships. As I have explained in one of my previous videos, I have not and still do not make any profit from Age of Noob. The direct cost of running the channel today is roughly $60 a month, covering all the different tools that I use. This, of course, does not include any time or investment in expensive hardware. If a small fraction of us joined for $1 a month, it would cover the monthly cost of running the channel, at least on the software side. Any support is much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, with that out of the way, let's begin. It's the summer of 1996. Laptops look kind of like this, running Windows 95. Very portable. Before the name Age of Empires was decided on, the alpha was called Tribe. I tried to see the beginnings of the very first tower in the franchise. The granary, however, was empty. There's not much else to do here. But hey, I trained my first and only Maceman. It's 1997. The first beta of the game, now called Age of Empires, allowed us to research the watchtower for 50 food. A bargain at first glance. These towers, however, weren't really that useful. They had a low attack, and most importantly, they required stone. Age of Empires suffered from significant balance issues, and stone, as a resource overall, was one of them. Stone was not really relevant because the game prioritized military speed, aggression, and map control over static defense. Furthermore, watchtowers couldn't garrison units, leaving your villagers vulnerable. Hence, without stronger late-game buildings, like castles or keeps to justify the investment to mine stone, or the fact that you could not use the market to sell it for gold, the resource played a minimal strategic role. As a result, towers have remained an afterthought. The Definitive Edition, released almost 2 decades later, unfortunately did not fix any of these balance issues. Watchtowers remained as weak as they were in the original game, still unable to garrison units, and stone continued to be the least valuable resource. From a gameplay perspective, it was more of the same, and same was not good. To summarize, if you are playing the original Age of Empires, or its Definitive Edition, then genuinely do not bother with towers. If you are playing casually, of course, you may opt to go for the Ballista Tower spam for fun. If you are playing Return of Rome instead, then you may opt to build a tower next to vulnerable resources if you know that your opponent is going to rush you with military units, and especially ranged ones. That's because you can finally garrison your villagers inside them for shelter. You can also sell the stone for gold later in the game in the market now. But remember, this defense is only temporary to buy you time and react with your own military. Two years later, laptops look like this and run Windows 98. More portable. So, it's 1999, the year a wise Scottish man once said,
"The hill with the dead tree protects the only access to your town. 'Twould be a good idea to build a watchtower on this hill once you advance to the feudal age.
It was a good idea indeed. The pre-release alpha versions of Age of Empires 2 from 1998 actually kept the same visuals and mechanics for the most part. Tons have changed until release, but towers somehow were one of those things that developers got sorted out rather early. Hence, even as peculiar as they seem, no need to dig deeper into these builds. In Age of Kings, the pendulum has swung the other way compared to the original from 97. Watchtowers in AoE 2 arguably were too strong now, especially at lower levels of play. Tower rushes, or trushes, were very annoying to deal with in the feudal age, and defending players were yet to familiarize themselves with how to deal with them. Even when players did know how to react, towers were too powerful for villagers to handle effectively on their own. Tower rushing still exists today, but the definitive edition made it far easier to deal with. Nerfs to building armor, the foundation, and tower HP mean defenders now have a much easier time destroying towers before they're completed. Hence, trushing is no longer the nightmare it once was during the Conqueror's era. From a gameplay perspective though, watchtowers fill an important role. You can build one to defend a risky forward resource like a gold pile or an important woodline. They're especially useful when the opponent is going for ranged units, as towers help you buy time to get to the castle age safely while still collecting resources. In the original Conquerors, towers technically helped buy time against melee units as well. Yet their utility has diminished in this regard due to one key evolution in gameplay with the definitive edition: quick walling. In the early days, only top players, like the Viper, could pull it off consistently. But now, even average players are quick walling villagers to safety, especially against melee units. Because of this, towers today are primarily a defensive option against ranged attackers, rather than melee threats. Also, they still have some niche late-game use. For example, the Turks and Spanish can make use of Bombard Tower spam due to their unique bonuses, and Japanese players might find opportunities for Yasama towers in niche situations. So, while they're not dominant, towers can still play a role in both high and low-level play, but typically as a stopgap until the Castle Age. Remember that constructing a tower means you no longer can build new town centers to boom with in the Castle Age, since you'll be left with 75 stone. This means that you will either have to buy that stone back or mine it eventually, so forcing a tower out of your opponent in the feudal age is quite valuable. In summary, for Age of Empires 2, building towers defensively around exposed resources that you will be collecting from is a good idea. Do this only after you have scouted that your opponent will be coming forward with military units, and especially ranged ones, to buy yourself time to get to the Castle Age. Finally, remember the Scottish man's words. It's a good idea to build these on hills. They do more damage and take less damage that way. It's 2005. Laptops look like this and run Windows XP. Age of Empires 3 has relegated towers to the backseat again. Now called outposts, they're not particularly impactful. While villagers can garrison in them, they become increasingly weak as the game progresses. Age of Empires 3 is more focused on shipments, fast-moving military units, and map control through active presence, and not through static defenses like towers. Hence, outposts do exist and provide some emergency safety in the early game, but they're not as critical as they are in AoE 2 or AoE 4. The game's pace and mechanics simply don't favor static defense. Admittedly, I have the least experience with Age of Empires 3 compared to the other games in the franchise, so if you are an AoE 3 expert watching this and have more nuance to add, please share it in the comments below. It's 2021. I don't think I need to show you what laptops looked like back then, but a new age was upon us. In Age of Empires 4, towers go back to playing a more prominent role, somewhat similar to Age of Empires 2. There are, however, key differences. First, there's no such thing as quick walling in Age of Empires 4, so quickly walling out melee units in real time is generally not an option like it is in AoE 2. This makes towers more important as a temporary haven for your villagers, especially against fast-moving and charging cavalry units. While towers can help against ranged units too, the town center in AoE 4 is significantly stronger than in AoE 2. It automatically defends your town without the need to garrison inside them, and it boasts a much larger attack radius. This makes the necessity of outposting near your base to protect your villagers far less necessary than in AoE 2. Critically, outposts in AoE 4 cost wood instead of stone, and are overall cheaper. This eliminates the friction that exists in AoE 2. You no longer have to go out of your way to collect stone, and it does not impact your build order or boom in the Castle Age. In AoE 4, your villagers will occasionally need to travel far from your town center to collect certain resources, such as a distant deer camp or gold vein. These are the perfect situations to place an outpost, to give your villagers a chance to survive the surprise raids. Once again, remember, towers are temporary defensive structures. They don't replace your military, and their job is just to buy you enough time to react. For example, when a French knight comes charging in, having an outpost nearby lets you garrison your villagers and delay the enemy long enough for your military to respond. Without it, those knights can snipe your villagers, retreat, and repeat the process until no villagers are left collecting. With a bit of micro, outposts let you interrupt that rhythm. Still, they do get significantly weaker the later the game goes. Yes, you can upgrade them to marginally extend their lifetime, but once you're in the late Castle or Imperial Age, even a handful of melee units can torch an outpost quickly, let alone siege weapons. Hence, they're really effective from the Feudal to early Castle Age timeline. After that, you're relying more on military presence and proper walling. That said, this does not mean that you should give up on outposts later in the game, just that they won't buy you the time they can in the early stages. Lastly, in Age of Empires 4, there are no hill bonuses from a damage perspective, unlike AoE 2. But constructing a tower on high ground still offers a line-of-sight advantage. Your opponent can't see or target the tower as easily, while you can hit enemies downhill with greater visibility. So if you have a choice and all else is equal, pick the high ground. It's still the better option. Towers may not be the flashiest part of any Age of Empires game, but they've always revealed something deeper about how each title is meant to be played, whether it's all-out aggression, careful map control, or simply buying yourself a few extra seconds to breathe. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please consider becoming a member to support the costs of running this channel. Thank you. You can also subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this. This video marks the new logo, thumbnail, pacing, and editing style. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on any or all of the aforementioned. With that said, keep your villagers safe, your map scouted, and your towers well placed. And when in doubt, remember, it's a good idea to build a watchtower on that hill.